Good evening, I'm John Carter and welcome to Poland Daily. Many discussions, debates and panels and presentations took place during the second day of the Economic Forum in Krynica, Poland, with almost 4,000 attendees from the world of politics, business and science. The leader of the Civic Platform opposition party, Grzegorz Schetyna, presented his vision for the future of the country. In turn, the Prime Minister of Poland, Mateusz Morawiecki, gave his speech in the evening. As is tradition, the Economic Forum handed out awards for Man of the Year, Business of the Year, New Culture of New Europe and the Best NGO in Central Eastern Europe.
The
program of the Civic Platform and the Civic Coalition is first and foremost an investment in people. Work needs to be profitable. We want Poles to earn more and to pay less taxes, so those who would work for a minimal wage would get a 500 zloty bonus and a 114 zloty bonus from a lower tax, so more than 600 zlotys per month in total. We're investing in people.
A więc każdy, kto dzisiaj zarabia minimalne wynagrodzenie.
So the Civic Platform has graciously let us in on what their program will be. After all this time, if these incompetent people were to get into power again, it would be an economical disaster for Poland, so I wouldn't really bother with their program. We in turn will elaborate more on our program at the program convention in Lublin on Saturday.
Polska była w katastrofalnej sytuacji.
W tym starciu na programy już Prime Minister Mateusz Morawiecki will give his speech later in the evening when he will be receiving the title of Man of the Year. The Polish PM is sure to use this opportunity to sum up his government's achievements over the course of his term of office in light of the upcoming parliamentary elections in autumn.
I o tym, co Prawu i Sprawiedliwości udało się zrealizować przez ostatnie 4 lata.
The Polish Central Anti-Corruption Bureau has detained Jacek K., the former chairman of Polish oil refiner and petrol retailer Orlen. 5 others have also been detained. They heard charges of irregularities at the Orlen company. The prosecutor applied police supervision to those under questioning and bail bonds ranging from 20,000 to 300,000 zloty. The suspects may face up to 10 years imprisonment. Attorney General Zbigniew Ziobro commented on the case.
The extensive evidence material gathered points to the very serious misuse of money for private purposes in a way that qualifies those offences as crimes by our criminal code. On the other hand, the prosecutor's office and the Central Anti-Corruption Agency has very strong basis to believe that those crimes have been committed. There are behaviors and descriptions that, if they get into the public eye, will also project how the authorities at that time used the funds, we can say, public. Because Orlen is a company with a large share of the state treasury. How this money was used by the then authorities. It fits into the atmosphere and feel of the secret recording scandal at the Owl and Friends restaurant, of everything we heard there, of this language, of the politicians' attitude towards the state, towards what is public. This really is a lot in these new investigation results, and it's certainly translated into a decision to charge and detain the former chairman of the Orlen oil company.
The possibility of a hard Brexit has considerably diminished. 21 Conservative MPs, including some of the most important ones, have supported the procedure in the House of Commons to prevent Prime Minister Boris Johnson from being able to leave the EU with no deal on October the 31st. Johnson intends to defend himself by holding a snap election before the current Brexit deadline.
About the consequences of this vote tonight, it means that Parliament is on the brink of wrecking any deal that we might be able to strike in Brussels, because tomorrow's bill would hand control of the negotiations to the EU, and that would mean more dither, more delay and more confusion. I don't want an election. The public don't want an election. I don't believe the right honourable gentleman wants an election. But if the House votes for this bill tomorrow, the public will have to choose who goes to Brussels on October the 17th to sort this out and take this country forward.
We live in a parliamentary democracy. We do not have a presidency, but a Prime Minister. Prime Ministers govern with the consent of the House of Commons, representing the people in whom the sovereignty rests. There is no consent. There is no consent in this House to leave the European Union without a deal. There is no majority for no deal in the country.
The death toll from Hurricane Dorian in the Bahamas has risen to 7. According to the local authorities, the number of dead may increase. Dorian is now approaching Cape Canaveral in Florida, but has fortunately lost strength in the last couple of hours. It is currently classified as a second category hurricane on the Saffir-Simpson 5-point scale.
We are in the midst of one of the greatest national crises in our country's history. The government will bring to bear every resource of state possible to help the people of Abaco and Grand Bahama or any other island nation that's necessary. Life, to me, is by far more important than money. And if that means saving a life would interfere with my budget, I prefer to save a life.
Thank you very much for joining me here this evening at Poland Daily. I'm John Carter. Stay tuned after the break for Poland Daily weather. It's followed by the culture, then it's the history, and finally the travel.
Hello, and welcome to Poland Daily Weather. The forecast for tonight calls for partly cloudy skies in the central and northern regions of the country. The northwest can expect showers, while the south will see clear skies. Tonight, the temperatures will vary from 9 to 17 degrees centigrade. Tomorrow, most of Poland will see partly cloudy skies. We can expect showers in Koszalin, Olsztyn, Warsaw, and Krakow. The warmest spot on the map will be Krakow at 25 degrees, while the coldest city will be Koszalin at 20 degrees. The next 3 days should bring showers on Friday in the central and southern regions of Poland. By Saturday and Sunday, the rain will move towards the west. The temperatures will drop gradually, and by Sunday, we can expect them to even out to 20 degrees centigrade. That is all for now. I invite you to stay with us for Poland Daily Business.
Poland Daily Business Edition. Welcome to the show from Krynica-Zdrój here at Economic Forum. We talked to Robert Cooper of Marie Bizard Wine and Spirits. So welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
And we'll obviously talk about Polish vodka. Mm-hmm. Your company is producing and selling some brands domestically and abroad.
Yes, indeed. And probably the most well-known of our brands are Krupnik and Sobieski. And we're very, very proud of the Polish vodka brands that we produce.
Mm-hmm. What is the distribution of Krupnik and Sobieski right now in terms of export?
So we export those brands especially to other parts of Europe, France, the Baltics, Lithuania, and also to North America. And Sobieski is a very, very well-known brand across many countries, as is Krupnik as well.
Mm-hmm. Are there any challenges to put your products that are from Poland to the foreign market, like United States, for example?
I think basically it's really about brand awareness, and for consumers to understand that Polish vodka is of the very highest quality. We find it quite straightforward in areas that have a very high proportion of Polish residents, but in other parts of the world, our job is to build the brand awareness.
And what you do in order to build the brand awareness?
So building the brand awareness is a matter of reinforcing the quality of Polish vodka, because Polish vodka really is of very high quality, and then also reinforcing the different occasions where Polish vodka is a wonderful drink to consume. If you look around the world, vodka is a very popular category. Polish vodka, in my mind, deserves to be more present because of the quality of the product.
Mm-hmm. You compete with vodkas from Russia.
Indeed.
And Belarus, and that's the country, but the Russia is like number one.
So there are many different areas that produce vodka, and some countries have been really pushing their exports for much longer. And so there is more, let's say, more tradition about it. Mm-hmm. For Polish vodka, the opportunity is very high. And when you look at say, Scotland with Scotch whisky, they have been exporting Scotch whisky for hundreds of years, and they do incredibly well. So more than 90% of Scotch that is produced is exported. Whereas Polish vodka, it's only 18% of the vodka is exported. And so we have a long way to go, but it all starts from having a very high quality product. So I believe that we definitely can improve the amount of exports of Polish vodka.
I'm glad that you see it as an opportunity. While entering new market, are you looking for cooperation from the Polish embassy, Polish trade office locally, and how are those experiences?
Oh, most definitely, because we want to be able to, of course, export Polish vodka, but also to export some of the wonderful aspects of Polish culture. And this is where the embassies and the commercial attaché departments are incredibly important. Because, as I say, we're very proud of Polish vodka, we're very proud of Polish culture, and we believe that there are so many parts in the world that would enjoy being able to participate more in these aspects.
Especially those areas where people are partying, like in the south. I would not name the countries or areas, but I guess that each and every one of our guests, viewers, can have an idea. If you have to summarize the idea of Polish product or vodka in essence for the customer that never had an experience, what would be your punchline?
I think my punchlines would definitely start from quality, would involve enjoyment, being together, because you can really enjoy Polish vodka on a night out and a party, but also Polish vodka is a fundamental part of the family and the family gatherings. Throughout all of time in Poland, at Christmas, around the dining table, Polish vodka is an important part of that. And so when I think of Polish vodka, of course I think of the 25-year-old that wants to go out to party, of course. But then I also think about the family and being together and all the joy of being able to share together. Polish vodka is a very important aspect of helping that to happen.
To what degree you are seeing in your requests from the customers the fact that the Polish economy is growing, the Poland is like more popularly reported in the world because people want to know about the country they know little of and suddenly is very developed and lots of good information are coming from Poland.
And most definitely. The story of Poland is a wonderful story in the last, say, 20, 30 years. And the reputation of Poland is very strong. And that is something that I think that we should all be very proud of. Poland is an economy that is growing, and the cultural aspects, the history of Poland is wonderful and rich, and sharing all of that with the new customers in the new countries is something that we find consumers are very interested in hearing about.
Okay, so thank you very much for this insight, very interesting prospect, and we keep fingers crossed that our percentage of export of vodka will be as good as Scottish percentage
Most definitely.
Scotch.
Yeah, a wonderful opportunity for all of us. Thank you very much.
Robert Cooper of Marie Bizard Wine and Spirits was our guest tonight, and that was it for tonight's Poland Daily Business.
Good evening and welcome to Poland Daily Business Weather. The forecast for tomorrow calls for showers in Koszalin, Olsztyn, Warsaw and Krakow. The rest of the country can expect partly cloudy skies and the temperatures will vary between 20 to 25 degrees centigrade. In Europe, we will see clear skies in Lisbon, Madrid, Bern, Rome and Athens. The rest of the continent can expect partly cloudy skies, and the only city that can expect to see rain will be Oslo. The temperatures should vary between 13 degrees to 34 degrees centigrade. The coldest city will be Oslo at 13 degrees, and the warmest will be Lisbon at 34 degrees centigrade. Thank you for joining us, and I wish you all a very pleasant evening.
will talk tonight about the small business in northern Poland, city of Koszalin, and its representative Przemysław Majewski is in our studio. Sir, welcome to the show.
Welcome.
And first question will be about the kind of business you have in your town.
I've been the owner of a tattoo studio for 15 years now. I've also been running a company together with my friend for 3 years. We're producing creams which heal wounds after tattoos.
That works, but you here not only as an entrepreneur in the tattoo business, but also as a musician and entrepreneur in that area. And we have a special disc of yours that is based on the 1930s music of Poland.
Tak, dzięki biznesowi mam pieniążki na to, żeby...
Yes, thanks to my business, I have enough money to record an album. We give the album away for free. I decided to record this album on the occasion of the 100th anniversary of Poland regaining its independence.
Niepodległości w całej Polsce oraz wysyłkowo za granicę.
I give it away as gift as part of a 100 albums for the 100th anniversary of Poland regaining its independence action.
Do Kongresu Polsko-Amerykańskiego.
I've also sent many albums outside Poland to Polonia, for instance to the United States, to the Polish-American Congress, to Lviv in Ukraine, to Hungary and Latvia. Now I'm holding talks with the House of Culture in Rio de Janeiro, and I gave many of them away here in Poland.
O Polonie, no i tutaj mnóstwo w Polsce.
So let us listen to one of your clips.
Umówiłem się z nią na 9:00, tak mi do niej tęskno już. Zaraz wezmę od szefa a konto, kupię jej bukiecik róż. Potem kino, cukiernia i spacer, księżycową jasną noc. I będziemy szczęśliwi, weseli, aż przyjdzie północ i nas rozdzieli. I umówię się z nią na 9:00, taki jak dziś.
Też na 9:00 kiedyś umawiałeś się zapewne. Bukiecik róż kupowałeś, czekałeś na wietrze. Czas poganiałeś jeszcze, tyle godzin przecież. Do 9:00, nim zajdzie słońce, chyba oszalejesz. Nieważne, czy pada deszcz, czy wiatr mocno dmucha. Chcesz, żeby 9:00 była już. Wreszcie posłuchaj, wskazówka jak na złość powoli się porusza. Bierzesz od szefa grosz, kończy się fucha. Bilety.
So how did you come up with the idea that 1930s music may be appealing to the present-day rap listener?
Jako pierwszy nagrałem utwór 100 lat, który opowiada...
Firstly, I recorded a song called The 100 Years. The song is about Poland's regaining its independence. And then I decided to make myself a suit just like they used to wear during that time.
Zobaczyłem się w lustrze i pomyślałem, o...
I looked at myself in the mirror and thought, man, they made an incredible music back then. So I decided to remaster the best hits of that times, like Ta ostatnia niedziela, Umówiłem się z nią na 9:00, Tylko we Lwowie, Mały biały domek, Chryzantemy złociste, and so on and so forth.
To ja napisałem teksty, które...
My music producer mixed it up. I wrote the lyrics. It turned out to be very interesting. We also made a few music videos.
Nagraliśmy szereg teledysków, można zobaczyć.
You went to the city of Lvov, you've been singing on the street. What were the reaction of the people of this Ukrainian town?
Bardzo przyjazna, uśmiechnięci.
People's reaction was very good. People were smiling. I was wearing a typical Lviv suit. People's reaction was very positive. We took many pictures of the city, including the cemetery. The history is very important to us. We wanted to show it.
Lwowski garnitur.
You also took part in a movie that will be on a few weeks from now, the movie about Polish alternative history.
Poznałem dyrektora Festiwalu Kultury.
I met the director of the Festival of the Alternative Culture and History, Jan Dulniak, during my trip to Hungary.
Gdy pograłem koncert razem z Hungariką i Pozytywką.
As long as he saw me wearing the suit, he watched my videos and asked me to play a minor's director in the movie. So I said yes. I think it wasn't that bad.
obejrzał teledyski i wpadł na pomysł, żebym miał...
Then I came up with an idea to make a video about the alternative history. You can watch the video on the internet.
Zagrałem mały epizodzik.
Music of 1930s, very popular melodies in Poland, but slightly forgotten. How does it happen that you took them and made them into the present-day rap music?
Najpierw nagrałem utwór pod tytułem 100 lat.
I started with recording an album 100 Years. It was about the 100th anniversary of Poland regaining its independence. Then I made myself a suit, and then I started to read more about those times. I wanted to know more. Honestly, I fell in love with this culture, architecture and fashion.
Moda właśnie. Nie ukrywam, że będę chciał...
I think I'm going to buy a car from those times. I combine two styles, the style from those times and rap. I think the results are great and interesting.
Dwa style, tamte lata z rapem mi najbliższym.
From what I've heard, people loved it, regardless of their age. Many young people like rap, but it's also good for the elders. They can go back in their memories and remember the times of their youth. This is the best thing. This music is for everyone, regardless of their age or political views.
Przemawia, ale i ludzie starsi tupią nóżką, kiwają główką.
So let us finish this quick conversation. Thank you very much for coming all the way from Koszalin to Warsaw. And we'll see this movie that was shot in Lwów, right? That seems to be very interesting.
Yes, yes.
Thank you very much for the participation. And let us see the clip.
Bo gdzie jeszcze ludziom tak dobrze jak tu? Tylko we Lwowie, gdzie śpiewem cię tulą i budzą ze snu. Tylko we Lwowie.
Na pocztówkach sprzed 100 lat poznajesz te miejsce. Ciągle stoi stary gmach, aż się kraje serce. Ilu ludzi, tyle strat, a czas ciągle biegnie. Jedno z najpiękniejszych miast, zachowana przestrzeń. Być może na randki tam twój pradziadek chodził. Rabat od kwiaciarki miał, nieraz sam dołożył. Wychowany wśród tych bram, wiedział gdzie jak dotrzeć tramwajami. Właśnie tak dojeżdżał na dworzec, kilka linii wzdłuż i wszerz. I znajome nazwy, pomnik króla Sobieskiego był. I wały hetmańskie, idąc miastem widzisz twarze podobne do twojej, jakbyś cofnął się dziś w czasie. Słysząc nowy projekt, widzisz moment, w którym odsłaniają pomnik Mickiewicza. Myślisz chyba szuka w oczach znów z przeszłości odbicia. Krok przechodnia daje tempo tu, patrzy kamienica. W noc i co dnia rośnie tętno, bo śpiewa ulica.
Bo gdzie jeszcze ludziom tak dobrze jak tu? Tylko we Lwowie.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Poland Daily History. Today we are discussing the events of World War II and the consequences for the Polish nation. We are in the Ochota district of Warsaw, right in front of the monument dedicated to the soldiers who held up the Germans for 19 days on September 1939. The historian, Dr. Krzysztof Jabłonka, will guide us through this turbulent time in Polish history. So in the previous episodes, we were discussing about the German aggression towards Poland. And now I want to move on to the occupation that happened right after the hostilities. So I was wondering if you can tell me about how Poland fared under the German occupation.
Just as there were 3 points of declaring war in Poland without actually announcing the invasion of Poland, there were also 3 points of Poles ending up their activities. The agreement, originally concluded before the outbreak of the war, set the Vistula River as the border.
Miała już być w Związku Sowieckim. Ale ponieważ Warszawa, jak wskazują tu daty, broniła się do 27 września.
The second part of Warsaw was to be part of the Soviet Union. But because Warsaw defended itself until September 27th, the German-Soviet frontier treaty was concluded on September 28th. The treaty moved the border to the Bug River. Because of this change, General Kleberg's independent operational group, Polesie, stayed in between the Vistula and the Bug rivers. On October 6th, the group surrendered and was taken captive. captive. Many of them were released and returned home, including people from the Suwałki Cavalry Brigade, where my father served. The second end of the war is the escape of the Eagle, Polish U-boat, from the Baltic Sea. The Eagle escaped from Tallinn, attacked the German warships in the Sound, located between Denmark and Sweden, and solemnly entered the port in Scotland on October 14th, 1939.
Szwecją, a następnie wpłynął uroczyście do portu w Szkocji, witany 14 października 1939 roku. I wreszcie ostatni z oddziałów 17 października rozwiązał rotmistrz Pilecki.
And finally, the hero of the Second World War, Captain Pilecki, destroyed the last division on October 17th. The Soviets quickly reached an agreement with the right German services regarding the suppression of the Polish intelligentsia. There were as many as 4 agreements in the city Krakow, Nowy Targ, Tarnów, and finally in Zakopane, where in a Villa Tadeusz, Gestapo and NKVD came up with a plan of destroying Polish professors, scientists and officers.
Wykonaniem tych postanowień po stronie niemieckiej była tak zwana Intelligenzaktion, a po stronie sowieckiej akcja zwana katyńską.
The plan was implemented by the so-called intelligence action on the German side and Katyń action on the Soviet side. Over 26,500 Polish reserve officers, including doctors, writers, judges, teachers and other people of great minds, were shot in the back of their heads. This action was supposed to make Poles dependent and ignorant once and for all. What is more, there was a very intense trade exchange going on between the Soviet Union and the Nazi Germany at the time.
Rosjanie dostarczali ogromne ilości surowców, na przykład na benzynie sowieckiej. Samoloty niemieckie bombardowały London.
The Russians provided huge amounts of raw materials, for example gasoline, which the German aircrafts used to bomb London. On the other hand, the Germans promised the engineering industry, including the construction of a super battleship Stalin, which was supposed to be better than the Bismarck battleship.
Swoich założeń do ostatniego momentu. Ostatecznie, zamiast wysłać Sowietom gotowe maszyny do produkcji broni, postanowili z własną bronią wkroczyć do Rosji.
Although the Germans started to stall for time and waited with the implementation of the promises to the last minute. Instead of sending the ready machines for the production of weapons to the Soviets, they decided to take their own weapons and try to attack Russia. But let's remember that until the last moment, Stalin was suspending all attempts of closing the border. They let a huge train filled with India rubber, which was a strategic material, to go from Manchuria through the Siberia, Ural and Russia straight to Nazi Germany's general governorship. The train crossed the Germany's border at 3 a.m. on June 22nd, 1941, near the Bug River. This is when a whole new part of World War II began. Unfortunately, let us remember that the Soviets paid a huge price for this cooperation. They suffered huge losses, which they could have avoided because Poland would have protected them, because Germany had no border with Soviet Russia until 1939.
Gdyż do 1939 roku Niemcy nie miały granicy z Rosją sowiecką.
So if we were to compare the occupation under the Soviet Army and the German occupation in 1940, which would you say is worse to live under as a Pole?
Początkowo Polacy sądzili, że okupacja niemiecka będzie przypominała tę z I wojny światowej.
At the very beginning, Poles thought that the German occupation would be similar to that of the First World War, where there was also a general governorship, where there were Germans standing on the streets. But people lived a good life here. It turned out very quickly that the Germans militarized the everyday life to the maximum. They took away over half of the Polish and extended their own. So the city, like Oświęcim, where they established a concentration camp, was located in the Nazi Germany territory. This wasn't a Polish land at the time. The general governorship was a German colony which consisted of 4 districts. Apart from a few elements of repression repression, such as the one in December 1939 in the Wawer district of Warsaw, a shootout took place. 2 bandits released from the prison shot 2 Germans who were checking the documents.
2 Niemców sprawdzających dokumenty I w odwet zabito 100 Polaków.
As a revenge, the Germans killed 100 Poles. Another example can be the village of Palmyry near Warsaw, where they killed the most heroic Poles, including a gold medalist from Los Angeles, sportsman Kosaciński. They killed him for the underground organization. Apart from these 2 examples, life was very orderly. Especially in the countryside, people remember it as an extremely ordered time. As long as people paid contributions, they lived a good life. The prices were tolerable. You could have bought many things. The Polish countryside doesn't remember it as a bad time. The repressions took place immediately in the Russian sphere. What's more, other national minorities were turned against Poles. Unfortunately, the Jewish minority, which was communized the most of the Jews were against communism, and the communists were derived from the Jews represented the minority. But among the communists who took the Bolshevik side, they made the majority. Ukrainians and Belarusians also co-occupied these areas. The Soviets tried to create the impression that they were liberating these nations. But the nations didn't feel liberated at all. The first huge deportation of around 300,000 of people to northern Russia, Arkhangelsk, and western Siberia to Tomsk took place on February 10, 1940. The second deportation of 100,000 people to Kazakhstan took place in the spring, on April 13th to 15th the same year. The third one concerned Poles and people accused of Polish roots. There was some kind of legal category in the Soviet Union. It happened in June 1940 and it reached the farthest border of Siberia and the southern Russia, the Altai Mountains. Finally, in 1941, also in the spring, more precisely in June, the Soviets started to suspect an attack from the German side, and in order to be prepared, they brought the army to the German border.
Dokładniej w czerwcu, kiedy wojska sowieckie były przywożone nad granicę z Niemcami.
The Soviet army was filled with Polish displaced people who were not only deported, but also placed in concentration camps. That is why the Soviet occupation was 10 times worse than the German occupation. Even the Polish underground was unable to organize itself at that time, but it worked very well under the German occupation. Before Warsaw was occupied by Germany, the Service for Poland's Victory was established. As a part of this movement, the Union of Armed Struggle was established in November. On February 14, 1942, it was transformed into the Polish Home Army, which was a part of the army in exile. Both of them were supposed to form the Polish Army in Europe.
W Armię Krajową, będącą częścią armii na uchodźstwie, które razem miały tworzyć Armię Polską w Europie.
As we have seen today, the Second World War had devastating consequences for Poland. Despite the country's best effort to fend off the German aggressors, Poland was occupied first by the Germans and then the Soviet Union until 1989. That's it for today. I'm your host, Benjamin Lee. I'll see you next time on Poland Daily History.
Hello and welcome. It's time for another series of episodes in Poland Daily Travel. What's better to do on a bright, sunny summer's day than light out for the country? And that's just what we did. There are so many interesting and cool places near Warsaw to go and see. That makes a day trip full of adventure and surprises. We went west, first to Ożarów Mazowiecki, then cross-country. Nearby Sochaczew was the scene of the Battle of Bzura River in September 1939. The last Polish cavalry charge defeated German infantry. There's a museum and the ruins of the castle of the Dukes of Mazovia. Another cross-country jaunt and we come to Brochów on the Bzura River. There's a beautiful church with the design of a castle. Chopin's parents married here at the turn of the 19th century. So it's westward ho from Warsaw for Poland Daily Travel. Stay with us and sit back and enjoy the ride. Poland Daily Travel, your favorite travel programming about Poland. Hello everybody and welcome back to Poland Daily. I have in my hand a very important pamphlet. It says Bitwa I Pamięć. What do you think that means, Nicholas?
Battle and memory, or battle and remembrance.
Battle and remembrance, yeah. I think that's a good translation.
Thank you.
Yeah. I would have said battle and memory, and I think
no, remembrance is better.
Remembrance
that's
is
what we're
better,
here to do, isn't it?
I-
Remember,
correct.
recall.
Well, we're in Sochaczew, and this town, about 60 kilometers to the west of Warsaw, lies on the Bezoura River. And in September 1939, that's early on, right as the Germans were pressing across Poland towards the capital in Warsaw, they were stopped right here in this area. In fact, just on the edge of town, of what is now the larger town of Sochaczew. In fact, this is the famous cavalry battle that was a success. It was not against tanks.
No, exactly.
They weren't tilting against windmills like Don Quixote.
Well, I think they actually didn't tilt against windmills. That story is based on an accidental encounter.
It is.
But you're right to point out this was in fact a successful Polish cavalry battle against German infantry.
That's
and
right.
they halted the advance in September.
They halted the advance in September. And it was, in that sense, a great victory because the Wehrmacht, the German army, at that time was known for its blitzkrieg, its lightning striking power. And they were halted here by men on horseback, which is a very Polish story. The history of this country and horse riding and cavalry is a long one.
It is.
Yeah, and famous even to cavalry regiments throughout Europe and even in the United States.
Of course, the famous Polish winged hussars.
Yeah, the winged hussars, the famous in the Battle of Vienna.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And Sobieski going to rescue Europe from the potential Turkish Ottoman invasion.
That's right. And then we have the Battle of Warsaw, which took place about 60, 70 kilometers from here, I suppose, around Modlin Fort and various areas over 10 days. Exactly at this time, it would have been almost 100 years ago, 99 years ago.
Exactly.
That's exciing.
That's a key battle, the Battle of Warsaw, which actually the anniversary of which was yesterday, on the 15th of August, because that is reckoned to be, by most historians, the moment when the Red Army's advance across Europe, potentially to other capitals, was halted by the so-called miracle on the Vistula. But that was a very important battle as well. So there have been some key moments when the Polish army has been able to effect the course of history.
Right, you are.
And
I think it's a point worth stating over and over because history is not only teaching us what happened, but it's teaching us about what can happen.
It's giving us some ideas. I can't remember whether it was Kipling who said history doesn't repeat itself, but it often rhymes. And I think we live in we live in an age where a lot of those who make decisions, politicians, seem willfully or blissfully even ignorant of history. They don't take into account the fact that these patterns do repeat themselves. Because if you can go back to the classics, the Romans and the Greeks, and of course nothing is really new from those times.
Yeah, well, these things, they recur. I mean, people wonder why when we're going around, perhaps we're going around in a travel program talking about the war from time to time, and not only beautiful country houses and great places to go and eat or drink and resorts and things like that, but it's because part of travel is stumbling upon these great things. I've never been here before.
Nor have I.
And you haven't been here before, and none of the crew has been here before. This place exists there. It's a little museum.
Exactly.
About this battle. And so I thought, when I read about it,
when I was on my bicycle ride, I saw a sign about this museum, and I thought, you know, worth coming here and looking about.
And it certainly is.
It is, yeah. These things that we see behind us are, I don't know about all of them, but certainly on this side, most of these are things that would have been used in that sort of battle.
Yeah, exactly.
Some of the other things here are not. They're later, including the tank, which is right here, which is a later model of a T-34, a bit later. I don't think they'd started making them yet, had they?
Not in the time of this.
Not in 1939.
No, no.
Yeah, but certainly these guns we see over here, rather over here on this side, would have featured in this battle, but mostly cavalry. And then they covered this retreat from this river. It was a good place to stop the Germans because they had to cross, even if it's a small river, they had to cross
rivers
it.
often are useful ways of stopping armies.
So the bridges were blown and they had to try and get across it. So it was a good place. And of course, you're on horses, you can get across the river on horses pretty quick.
Yeah, horses know how to swim.
Horses know how to swim, that's right. And they know where the fording places are because they're local. So they attack, and then they can retreat across the river, wait for them to cross, and attack them again as they cross the river, which is pretty much what happened during this battle.
Exactly.
And then they covered the retreat of the army back to the capital through the Campinos, which is over this direction.
Like
the
forest
Campinos,
north of Warsaw,
because the sun is here behind us, setting in the west. This must be north, and that's where the forest is.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah. So it's very interesting stuff. Okay, we're going to go on with more of Poland Daily Travel with me and my guest in this series of episodes, the inimitable and dapper Nicholas Richardson. And we're going to go look at the river now and the area where the battle actually took place. A very significant battle, one of the few victories against the Germans early in the war, and that includes fighting the British and the French, which happened later. Okay, stick with us. Poland Daily Travel. Hello everybody and welcome back. Nicholas and I have taken a short walk down to the Bzura River, and it was this river that the Polish were defending against the German advance, the infantry advance, in September of 1939, early September, you know, just a few days after the war had started, because the Germans pretty much ran across the country using the Luftwaffe, their air force, covering their advance. The river, you can see, is not a huge river, but it's wide enough to stop an army. We saw back in the museum some pontoons, which would have been used. Weren't they used to?
They were indeed, yes.
To cross the river.
Exactly.
They would just take these things, these sort of, by our standards, pretty primitive flotation devices, stack them together, and then go across.
Exactly.
And then retract them, and away you go. Probably pull on wagons pulled by horses, I would think.
I would think so too.
Yeah, the Germans were using a lot of horses too.
They were, and that's one of the things people don't realize about the Second World War. In the early stages, particularly, the surprising number of horses that we used.
That's right. Yeah.
We tend to think only of tanks and mechanized vehicles.
And mechanized vehicles, but there were a lot of horses.
Tremendous amounts of horses.
The first year of the war, anyway. So not in Africa, but the first year of the war in Europe, a lot of horses were used in even the first 2 years, but not after that.
No, no.
So anyway, the battle took place right on this river. Now this river runs on down, it goes towards Żelazowa Wola, which was the birthplace of Chopin. And this is very close to here. I think it's about 2 kilometers from the center of Sohachev. So effectively, the place where Chopin was born and the place where his parents were married were in the Sohachev area. So that wraps it up for this part of our trip through Sohachev. Been talking about the battle on the Bezura River. At least Nick and I have been talking about it for you. Poland Daily Travel. Take a look at the river. It's a beautiful day. Oh, and see, these people are coming by. Look, kayaking on the river. Nice.
Beautiful.
We should go try that. You want to go try it?
Yeah, let's try it.
Yeah. Okay, we're going to go kayak for a while. But first, a commercial from our sponsor. Just kidding. There's no commercial from our sponsor. We'll be right back with the next exciting episode as we continue from Sohachev on along the Bezura River, in fact, today. Stay with us for the next episode. Thanks, Nick, for being with us.
My pleasure, as
always. See you on the
always.
next one. See you on the next one.